Day 36 of the PCT SOBO journey, a reunion with Janitor. Start point, Tentsite mile 630.1. Endpoint, Santiam Pass Trailhead, mile 653.2. Total miles covered, 23.1 miles. Waking up on this brisk morning, I found my tent covered in a layer of condensation. After using my trusty hiker bandana to wipe away the worst of it, I packed my gear and enjoyed breakfast while watching the early risers heading northbound. The first few miles of my hike were quite serene. I passed by Shale Lake, aptly named for the shale rocks that bordered it, and took in the peaceful sight of the low-lying lakes nestled within the forest below. Today was particularly special because I was finally going to see Janitor again. My excitement was palpable, but with over 20 miles still ahead of me, I had plenty of time to think about our reunion. As I ascended, the forest scenery unfolded effortlessly around me. When I paused to glance back at what I had traversed, I was rewarded with a stunning view of Mount Jefferson. Just a half-mile later, the vista became even more breathtaking. Instead of the lush green meadows I had encountered the day before, this side of Mount Jefferson revealed rocky cascades interspersed with resilient evergreens. This stark contrast illustrated how life can thrive even in challenging environments. At a scenic viewpoint, I encountered a couple of southbound section hikers who were preparing for their upcoming trek in Washington. The wife had been hiking the PCT in segments since 2016. We engaged in a delightful conversation about life, family, and the importance of living authentically. I genuinely enjoyed their company and felt a twinge of sadness when we parted ways. However, I was fortunate enough to bump into them again about 1.5 miles later during my snack break. Although pesky mosquitoes cut our chat short. The trail is filled with incredible individuals, and sometimes the brief moments we share just aren't enough. As I continued my hike, the landscape transformed into a more rugged and rocky terrain, which I found exhilarating. There's something liberating about traversing a rocky bald that fills me with enthusiasm. Butterflies danced in the air, appearing from nowhere and flitting off to destinations unknown. As the day warmed up, I spotted a crystal-clear lake and decided it would be the perfect spot for lunch. My plan was to eat and then take a refreshing swim. However, I hadn't anticipated that my body would cool down while I ate, and the steady breeze made the idea of jumping into the chilly water less appealing. Still, I couldn't resist the allure of the lake, so I dipped my feet in for a few minutes. Back on the trail, I was met with another surprise as I rounded a rocky bend. An expansive view of the Oregon landscape unfolded before me. Rolling hills, majestic mountains, and plateaus stretched into the distance. Some areas charred from past fires, while others remained vibrantly green. I was in awe of Oregon's beauty, which I had not fully appreciated until this moment. I then descended into a burn area and hiked for about 5 miles, and I found myself wishing I could have taken a dip in that lake. I noticed a group of northbound hikers nearby. One girl had even taken the plunge. However, when she emerged, she sank knee-deep into the mud, and I quickly decided that was not for me. As I climbed higher, I was greeted by the striking sight of Three-Fingered Jack, a peak with spires that seemed to reach for the sky. The red rock glowed brilliantly in the sunlight. The ascent was relatively short, but I was grateful for the refreshing breeze on the other side. Now I was in the final stretch toward the highway. My energy and water supply were dwindling, so I focused on putting one foot in front of the other. My last descent took me through a burn zone, but thankfully the sun wasn't too harsh. Before I knew it, I had arrived at the trailhead. I eagerly searched for Janitor's car and was overjoyed to see him. The excitement of our reunion was overwhelming. The past month had felt incredibly long, and I was eager to make the most of our time together. We headed to Bend, where we stopped at a charming food truck area for a quick meal. My first impression of Bend was that it was a haven for outdoor enthusiasts. Everyone seemed to have just come off the trail, in a day hiker sense, not a thru-hiker one. And the crowd was predominantly young. After spending a month in the wilderness, the bustling atmosphere felt a bit overwhelming. After our meal, we made our way to the Airbnb, where I could finally clean up and unwind. And that's a glimpse into a day in the life of a southbound PCT hiker.